How's it going, everybody, and welcome to episode 338 of Master My Garden podcast. Now, this week's episode is covering a topic that I've covered in the past. And every year in late July and early August, Carlow Garden Festival takes place. And as you've heard me mention on the podcast before, Carlow Garden Festival brings together some of the, I would say, the best speakers within gardening across Ireland and the UK. And this year is no different. And we're going to have a look at the festival. We're going to go through it day by day and, look at what the different speakers, the subjects that they're talking on. So I'm delighted to be joined by Eileen O'Rourke, CEO of Carlow Tourism, who look after the Carlow Garden Festival. And the festival runs from the 25th of July until the 2nd of August. So nice 9 long days of great gardening content. So Eileen, you're very, very welcome back to Master My
Thank you
Garden
very
podcast.
much, John. Thank you for having me.
I mentioned it. Over the years, the speakers have been fantastic, and this year is definitely no different. Looking through the list there's some of the best speakers within gardening again at the festival. So, yeah, you really are able to pull in the top talent, I suppose.
Yes, well, we work very hard on it in
Yeah,
association with the Carlow Garden Trail Committee and the members on the trail, obviously from their own knowledge of gardening and within their own premises, they have great ideas. So really for us, it's here in the office, it's to try and make contact and ensure that they want to come along. So we're very pleased with this year's program again, and we've added some new elements this year, which we hope will be well received also.
yeah, brilliant. And it's a nice, for people coming to it. It's something that you can tie in your kind of holiday around it. It's 9 days. You can come up and dip in and out of the festival over the 9 days for whatever speakers catch your eye. And yeah, as I
Yeah,
say, you
it's
can make a kind of a few days out of it or a week out of it, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that because we actually see that quite a lot.
Yeah,
That people actually, it's their domestic holiday or it's their, domestic break for a few days.
yeah.
We see people coming the first weekend, then they're obviously going back to work.
Hmm.
They might get back then the following weekend on the Friday, and they're there for the last weekend as well. And actually, this year, that's one of the things we've done. Um, is we've introduced passes if people
Okay.
want that we have a first weekend pass based exactly on what you're saying, and we have a second weekend pass, and that's designed for those who might be in work during the week, can't make the talks, but love coming down at the weekends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to dip in and out of the various ones.
Hmm.
So we'll do the same as what we did last year, where we start on day one, we go through the speakers, sort of talk about what people might expect coming to any of these talks.
Yes.
We won't give them any of the, I suppose, the secrets that are going to be given out or talked about, but it'll give them a flavor for what's coming up. And so yeah, we'll start on 25th of July. So that's a Saturday, 25th of July, I think, isn't it?
Saturday is the 25th of
Yeah,
July,
so that's day
and
one.
we start with Fín O'Neill, and Fín will be meeting everybody at the Garden of Remembrance in Loughlin Bridge and going on a lovely walk along the River Barrow for about an hour and a half, answering, both introducing everybody to the plant life and the bird life of the River Barrow, but also asking any queries that people have, because obviously Fín is hugely knowledgeable on herbs and the natural world and how important it is for us. To me, Fín epitomizes the garden festival as well. And I'm always keen to say that it's for people who are very knowledgeable about gardening, but it's also for those who are just beginning to dip their toe in.
Hmm.
And Fionn is a wonderful speaker. I really enjoy listening to him. And if anybody, I probably said this to you before, John, but I do have a lawn and I do have some pots, and the
Hmm.
flowers are actually growing in them at the moment and they're looking very well. But that's the extent of my gardening prowess. But I love the fact that, for many of the talks that I'm at, I find them really, really interesting, and I'm not a keen gardener. I'm very much a beginner, or just somebody that has that loves being in gardens or being out in nature.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. And then later that evening, we head off to Arboretum Home and Garden Heaven. And there we have the opening event of the Garden Festival this year. And again, this to me is a talk that will appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
It's James Alexander Sinclair. He's very well known gardener, designer in the UK. He's also an RHS judge. And Joe Swift, who has actually created a new garden himself, about 2.5 acres. And he's a former participant in BBC Gardener's World. He was regularly on the show. But he's going to do an overview of his garden as he has created it. And then we'll have a short break, and James will come on and present his garden. And I suppose they'll both critique their own gardening styles. They're both very, very funny individuals. So it's just, it's setting up to be a good evening of gardening information, but also just a fun evening as well. So that's happening at 7:30 in the Arboretum. And if people want to make an evening of it, a complete evening of it, there's a lovely evening meal in Arboretum from 5 until 7. And then you head into the actual garden talk at 7:30 that evening. And the Arboretum opens until 9:15 that night.
Okay, brilliant. That's a nice lineup to kick off. Fiona O'Rourke was on the podcast. It's a number of years ago, probably in the earlier days of it, and it was one of the longest episodes that we've done, but it's also one of the most popular, and it's one that you would even myself, who was involved in the recording of it, it's one that you would often listen back to because it's just there's loads of stuff in it. None of it is out of reach for people. It's both interesting and knowledgeable. It's a brilliant, as you said, he's a brilliant speaker, and that was and is a brilliant episode. So he will be, for anyone that's going on that walk initially, that's a really nice morning.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear. I must check out that podcast myself, because I could really listen to him for a very long time.
Yeah, he's excellent.
As you say, he's just so interesting. Everything is you can really identify with everything he's saying. There's nothing too highbrow at all in it, but it's just really, it seems strange to say everything is a nugget, but there's so many nuggets of information in what he presents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's very, very good. And then obviously that evening is always a great evening in Arboretum, and again, this is a nice setup, where the two very, very good gardeners, two very good garden speakers, and they are going to critique each other's gardens. So it'll be a bit of fun, but it'll also be interesting to see, the both gardens and listen to the over and back, and as you say, the conversation and the banter between the two of them sounds like brilliant. And then of course you have a great evening in the Arboretum till quarter.
And I suppose Joe's garden is at a very different stage to James's, in that Joe has just started creating, in the last couple of years, his new garden. So it will be very interesting from that point. It's also, as we know both of them from coming to the festival, I'd say neither of them will hold back on the other, if you know what I mean. So it should be good fun as well as informative. And Joe hasn't been at the festival since 2018. So I think people will really appreciate the opportunity to see him again and to learn what he's been up to in the meantime.
Yeah. No, that's a brilliant day to kick it off. So that's Saturday the 25th. And tickets for both of those, €10 for the Fianna Newlawn talk, I think. And is it $24.95?
It's 30 for the evening in the Arboretum, and then the evening meal, which is main course, choice of 2 main courses, and then choice from the dessert counter, which If anybody has been in Arboretum, they'll know that's extensive. And tea and coffee, and that's 24.95.
Very good. Yeah, that's
And there's
brilliant.
been no change in the evening meal, which is difficult enough in today's environment because, hospitality providers,
Yeah.
there's one price increase after the other. So it's great that we've been able to keep it at last year's
Yeah,
level.
very good. And that's a great evening now when you pair the two together. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, yes, I think it's going to be, it's definitely one of the highlights of the program.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So that takes us then to Sunday the 26th, the second day of the festival, and again a brilliant speaker to kick off Sunday morning.
Yes, so Colm O'Driscoll, one of our Irish speakers, again, as you say, a brilliant speaker, head gardener down at Lismore, um, former gardener in oh,
Airfield.
in Airfield in
Yeah,
Dublin.
yeah,
And Colm is going to be talking about lessons from nature. So it's a brilliant location for what he's going to be talking about. It's a Garden Bio. It's a community garden in the centre of Carlow town. If any of your listeners haven't been there, this is a great opportunity to get there. And really what Colm is doing in this talk is he's inviting everybody to rethink how we're all working with nature. Um, so he's going to share his own practical approaches to gardening that he has taken when he gardens himself, encouraging beneficial insects into the soil, uh, reducing, general intervention with the soil and working with seasonal times. So he's going to focus on how small changes can really have a big impact in how we garden. So, focusing on biodiversity, trying to improve soil health, and creating more self-sustaining garden spaces, I suppose, is Colm's ethos.
hmm
And it's going to be, again, a really lovely morning. It starts at 11 o'clock. People are welcome to come early. Um, and Garden Bio is a volunteer-run space, John. So some of the volunteers will be there to guide people around, both before and after. And it's just a lovely space and a very welcoming space.
Yeah,
So it starts at 11 o'clock. Um, and probably, be over by about 1. Colm will speak for about an hour. There will be questions and answers afterwards, and then obviously people can take a walk around the gardens with the volunteers. And what I love as well that morning is they always have veg for sale. So if anybody wants to buy some real homegrown produce, it's there for sale on the morning. And it's just, I suppose I can't really get across on the podcast what a welcoming space it is
yeah,
and how enthused everybody is on the committee to actually be a part of the garden festival, and how delighted they are when they see people coming from all over the country to their
yeah,
space, because it is very much, to me, it's a very special space in the centre of the town, and they're very much committed to sustainable principles, gardening as a community. And it's just, I think Colm, Colm is the perfect speaker for the location. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well.
yeah. And that is a brilliant little garden. So I know it very well actually. I've done some work helping them with their composting setup in there. I also do some talks in there, helping out a very good herbalist from Cara, Laura Darcy. So she has a beginner's herbalism course basically, and she brings me in to do a small piece for to teach them how to grow the herbs as opposed to she looks after how to use them, and I go in there,
Ah, very
and
good.
so I know the gardens very well, have walked around it several times, worked on the composting space for them and various things, so I know it very, very well. And you're right, there is a lovely feel in there. There's actually a brilliant, there's the brilliant room for the talks as well, a nice open, bright room for the talks,
Yes,
comfortable room for the talks, and then you
yes,
have the lovely setup of the vegetable beds, the raised beds across the and a polytunnel. and they're all ran by different groups, schools, community groups, the
Active retired
active
are
retirement. I was
some of
trying
them
to
as
think of that
well.
word,
Yeah.
active retired. And there's loads of different groups have their various beds in there, and yeah, it's a lovely setup. And then of course the gardens themselves where you can walk around.
Mm.
Yeah, it really is a nice place and a great spot for a gardening talk for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Very good. And then that afternoon, we're heading out to Duckett's Grove. And at 3 o'clock, we will have the UK gardener there, um, Chris Beardshaw. And probably Chris will be quite well known to your listeners, both from his work in Gardener's World and then his presenting work also in terms of the Flying Gardener.
mhm,
And he's doing a talk called Painting with Plants. He's looking at the origins of the English garden style and how to create beautiful and lasting planting schemes.
yeah,
And we again, like Joe Swift, Chris hasn't been with us since 2018. So it's a great opportunity for people who haven't seen him in a long number of years to actually come along to Duckett's Grove. And again, Eamon Wall and the team out in Duckett's Grove have been doing tremendous work in terms of, cultivating and bringing on the gardens out there.
mhm,
That afternoon, we will also have free guided tours of Duckett's Grove. There's a fabulous tour guide there called Danny McDade, who really, he really breathes history and life into every stone in that place. So if people are coming to the talk, they're very welcome to come in advance. The guided tours are at 12:30 that day, 2 o'clock, and then 4:30 to coincide with the talk itself as such.
mhm.
So people are very welcome to book into those. And we also have some nice craft units in Duckett's Grove. We have Nick Angel's Candles, and then we also have the Red Admiral, which is Tanya Dean, who does beautiful tweed clothing, and they'll be available on the day also to showcase all the lovely styles that they have. But I suppose the star of the show is Chris Beardshaw, and we're delighted to have him back this year. And, I suppose the English garden style is one of, the enduring and lasting contributions to gardening worldwide. So it would be great to get his perspectives on it and how we can all have these beautiful, luscious borders
Mhm.
that it's well known for.
Yeah, and it's obviously the color combinations. That's what he seems to be talking about, painting with
Hmm.
plants. So it's color combinations, and that's something that people do struggle with when we've talked about it on the podcast before. So to be able to see Chris's guidance or to get Chris's guidance on what works well together and so on, that'll be really interesting, and it'll help people when they go back to their own gardens to put plants together that will work together. So yeah, that's a really nice talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's another Power Pack Day, the 26th. Chris and Colin O'Driscoll, and
Yes.
then on to the 27th, and yeah,
So on the
first
27th,
speaker.
we're going to be joining the head gardener in Gravetime Manor.
Hmm.
And he's going to give us his insight. It's Tom Coward. So it's his insight into the running of Gravetime Manor. It's one of the UK's most celebrated gardens. It's a place that has, continued to influence gardening around the world. Uh, Probably so well known because of William Robinson,
Yeah.
and it's the birthplace of what we know as the natural style of gardening. And obviously in Altamont, in Carlow, we have a special interest in that because Altamont is designed on that basis. So it'll be a great insight into how, that relationship between plants and nature come into being.
Yeah.
And Tom is also going to focus on kind of the principles of gentle gardening as well. So gardening, but how you do it in such a way that, it's healthy soil, it's encouraging biodiversity, and creating resilient landscapes that really help gardens to thrive. So
Yeah.
that's on at 11 o'clock on Monday morning. And that afternoon, then we head to the Delta Sensory Gardens, where we're going to meet Jimmy Blake, the next of our Irish speakers. And Jimmy has chosen a topic which is creative plant combinations through the seasons in Huntingbrook Gardens. So obviously Huntingbrook Gardens is so well known, and it's a great opportunity for people to find out how Jimmy adopts that approach in Huntingbrook. Selecting plants that work well together. How do you create seasonal impact that everybody wants? How do you, in bringing in all the color and bringing all the structure, how do you maintain that sense of balance within a border? So he's a lovely, relaxed and engaging style. Again, we haven't had Jimmy for a few years, so I think he'll be very popular here in Delta Sensory Gardens. And again, like all of our talks, once the talk is over, your admission ticket also allows you to actually go into the gardens. So people will be able to take a look around the beautiful gardens of Delta.
Yeah, and they are nice. And again, two brilliant speakers. I've had Tom and Jimmy on the podcast before, and I've heard Tom speaking in person as well. And yeah, it's really interesting. I spent a little bit of time with him last year. He was speaking at Buds and Blossoms, and on the week prior or the couple of days prior to it, he was trying to trace William Robinson's, early days here in Ireland, and we we traced them back to having at some point lived not very far within a mile of my house here. So we spent a day tracking around,
Oh, wow.
yeah, old churches and libraries and various places. So I'm not sure how far he got with it afterwards, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was, and
He's a
he's a
very
brilliant
interesting
speaker.
speaker, very
Yeah,
interesting,
yeah,
and so engaged in the subject as well. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And Jimmy, obviously, Super Garden does amazing things there. Beautiful gardens, but loads of different types of spaces within the gardens as well. So he'll be able to talk about, shade, full color borders, um, meadows, everything. So he has a sand garden, so that, you'll get various points of interest from a gardening perspective from Jimmy as well. So yeah, that's another great day. And then on to the 28th. So
Yes. So again, the 28th is kind of another highlight if you want. We have two talks that day. We have John Anderson in Altamont Gardens, and I often wonder, do I refer to John as English or Irish? Because of course he trained in Ireland, he's worked extensively in Ireland himself, and of course now he is in England, but he's coming to Altamont Gardens at 11 o'clock. His talk title is Gardens Along the Gulf Stream. So it's really focusing on the gardens that he has managed. So we start with, the beautiful gardens that are Mount Usher. Then he went in his career to, I probably pronounce this wrong, John, you'll be better to tell me, but Inverary in Scotland. Then he went down to Exbury to the Rothschilds. And then, of course, in 2016, there was that huge move for him when he became gardener at that time to the Queen of England, and then more recently to King Charles III. So he has a fascinating insight. He's only the fourth keeper of the gardens at Windsor Great Park. So he's an absolutely fabulous speaker. So I'm really looking forward to hearing him. We haven't had him for a good number of years. So he'll have I often find, again, this is where you don't have to be a keen gardener to really enjoy many of the talks we have. So, John will take us on a trip from Ireland to the UK, and it's really an opportunity to travel to spaces that you never thought you'd be able to look
yeah,
and find out about. And there will be lots of gardening information in there as well. But
yeah.
as you know, John himself has also travelled extensively, across Australia, South Africa. So that'll come into his talk as well. So it's kind of sitting in your chair in a lovely marquee in Altamont Plants, but being transported kind of
Around the world.
halfway around the world.
Hmm.
And I love that aspect of some of our talks as well.
Yeah, yeah. And again, wouldn't overly matter if you're a very, very keen gardener or if you're, if you're a
Yeah,
beginner, because they're going to talk in a way, number one, that's accessible to everybody. But also the stories themselves are going to be interesting regardless of your ability, gardening ability. So yeah, that's going to be another brilliant talk.
yeah. And then that afternoon, we're going to be heading at 3 o'clock over to Hardymount Gardens. And Oliver Shorman, he's going to be talking. He gave us the title himself, and I love the title. It's called It's Never Too Late. So it gives us all great hope that even if we haven't, got everything in place, he has really moved his whole nursery a little bit, about 400 meters from the old Mount Venus nursery. And he's going to talk about that whole process. It happened in 2025, so he was 25 years in Mount Venus Nursery at that time. And then he basically started again, moving his whole nursery a little bit further up the road, and all the lessons that he learned in that process. And it concludes that talk with a beautiful afternoon tea. And we've been incredibly lucky with the weather over the years. And it's just, again, such a wonderful atmosphere, the talk itself, and then just, people floating out to Hardymount Gardens to have a look at the gardens themselves, or just enjoying their afternoon tea on the lawn. So that's a lovely afternoon. And as I keep on saying, it's just no ordinary afternoon tea. The McKeevers don't do things by half. It's a gorgeous event on the lawns in Hardymount. And there just seems to be no end to the beautiful treats and sandwiches and sweet treats that come out of the kitchens in Hardymount.
Brilliant, yeah. It sounds like a lovely afternoon, and Oliver is another brilliant speaker as well. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
really knowledgeable and a fantastic nursery. To hear that story is going to be good. But he knows an unbelievable amount about plants and how to grow plants, how to situate plants, what works well. Yeah, another brilliant, brilliant speaker.
And
Uh,
can I just say as well, John, on the day, Oliver has produced a beautiful, it's kind of a hardback coffee style book. It's called Slow Creation, Quiet Roots and Listening. And
mhm.
it's basically an overview of his whole journey to Mount Venus Nursery, to Bratton House, where it was located. And that's available on the day if anybody would like to purchase it. And obviously, Oliver will be there to sign it as well.
Brilliant. Yeah,
On
that's
Wednesday, then we take off, Wednesday morning, we take off to Burris House, another beautiful location on the garden trail. And this time we have Arit Anderson. And Arit will probably be very familiar to your listeners because obviously she's the regular presenter on BBC Gardener's World. We would have seen her a lot over Chelsea. She won a silver gilt at Chelsea this year. And she's presenting a talk called Designing with Plants, Why They Should Always Be the Star of the Show. And that's great. It'll be a great talk for people who really want to get to grips with their planting and their planting styles. And Arit will present a number of kind of best examples of how plants can transform the way we design and how we experience our own gardens, and how plants can really, they provide the structure, they provide the color, the texture, the seasonal interest. And she herself is very, very interested in natural gardening, responding to, the whole issue of biodiversity and climate change. So I think that's going to be a lovely talk. And again, if anybody hasn't been there, it's just a beautiful location, as you were saying, with the space in Angargin Bio. It's in a wing of Burris House, lovely doors out to the side of the house with these fabulous views of Mount Leinster and the Blackstairs Mountains. lots of garden, seats outside for people to relax, both before and after the talk. So I'm really looking forward to that. She's a really enthusiastic speaker as well. So it should be another of our highlights this year.
Yeah, brilliant. And yeah, I think designing with plants, why they should always be the star of the show. That's a great title. And it probably is something that gets plants, not saying to get a little bit lost, but there's a new wave of garden design where it's all about the fire pit and the outdoor kitchen, and it's all about the structural part of it. So that's a nice topic, I suppose,
Yes.
to highlight that they should always be the star of the show as opposed to some of the other features. Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant
Yeah.
topic.
On Wednesday afternoon, then we move on to Kilgraney House and Herb Gardens, and again, I love this venue because it's a beautiful venue to begin with. But it shows the variety in the garden trail. So, you have your private gardens, you have your public gardens, your beautiful nurseries and award-winning garden centres, and then you also have the herbal gardens in Kilgraney, which is a very different aspect of gardening. But as you know yourself, one that has become hugely important. And we're delighted to welcome this year Helen Begadon. Um, She's one of the most respected herbal medicine practitioners in the country. She's director of Core College in Castlecomer, where she's trained hundreds of herbal practitioners over the years. And she's going to be talking about nature's pharmacy, healing herbs. So this talk has always proved very popular. So there's one talk at 3 o'clock, and then we repeat that talk, the exact same talk at 5:30. It takes place in the lovely gallery space in Kilgraney House. So we have about capacity for 50 people in that space each time. And Helen is going to focus on the top 10 most popular Irish medicinal plants, the conditions they like in which they need to grow and thrive. And then the practical thing is what they can be used for. So it'll be a very interesting talk, I think. It'll focus on everything from, teas to calming remedies, how they can improve our digestion, our immune system and boost it. So I'm looking forward to that talk as well.
Yeah, brilliant talk.
And I suppose the brilliant thing is you literally step out through those lovely doors of the gallery space, and the herb gardens is in front of you. And Helen will be available to people, obviously, after each talk, to guide them through the plants, as will Martin and Brian from Kilgraney House. So you learn, and then there's the practical application once you actually see the beds straight outside the doors of the gallery space.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, so
another
then,
super day.
yeah, super day. Then on Thursday, we're heading off to Burtown House in the morning at 11 o'clock. And then later that afternoon, we'll head to Shankill Castle. So Burtown House features Daphne Shackleton, and she's talking about reinventing the shrubbery. So, it was always a very traditional feature of almost every Irish garden. And over time, I remember my granny having a lovely feature within our garden, but they've become, I suppose, the forgotten corners now. So Daphne is advocating for them, and her talk will explain how they can be really reimagined and become very vibrant corners of the garden. And in the afternoon, then we take off to Shankill Castle, and we have Noel Kingsbury. And again, Noel is one of our UK gardeners, and he has contributed. He's hugely knowledgeable. He's done a lot of work with Pete Uldoff, so it's great to have him. He's focusing on wild by design, and it's all about planting inspired by nature. So, design plantings that are both, biodiversity rich, beautiful throughout the seasons, but they also look very well and very appealing. So that's Noel Kingsbury, and he's there at 3 o'clock on the Thursday afternoon.
Well, that's a brilliant start to the day. Like Daphne's talk, rejuvenating the shrubbery. It's actually something we've talked about a little bit, like what I was saying about the fire pit. So shrubs are now seen as a little bit from the 1980s, but and interestingly enough, Tom Coward in the time I saw him speaking, he was really advocating for the inclusion of shrubs within borders. And yeah, that's because there's so much. I actually covered a podcast on it back in the spring. There's so many really good shrubs, but they all got lumped into I suppose, into the bracket of old fashioned. But there's so many brilliant flowering shrubs, particularly, and they add structure and structure, color, interest, across the border. So it's brilliant to see that talk now. That's a really interesting one, yeah.
Mm.
And Noel Kingsley, obviously, that's a super speaker as well. Wealth of knowledge, one of the
Huge wealth of knowledge, yeah.
yeah,
And at the moment, actually, he's designing. I'm looking forward to hearing about this. He's designing a new garden in Regent's Park in London, and it's in memory of obviously Queen Elizabeth. So he'll share his insights on that as
yeah,
well, I'm
yeah,
sure.
brilliant.
Yeah. And that evening, so far within our program, we've always had just the opening evening, which is in the Arboretum, and it's on the Saturday evening. But we've been encouraged to look at expanding the program. So this year, John, the next 2 evenings are part of that, I suppose, process and effort, in that we've the first of 2 evening talks
Yeah.
that take place outside the traditional opening evening. And it's Sandbrook House, just outside Ballon, and it's Arthur Shackleton will be talking at 6 o'clock that evening. And he's going to really be talking about a tale of a country garden reimagined. So over the last 10 years, Christopher and Bella Bielenberg have really focused on the garden that was, I suppose, a very small element of the garden at Sandbrook House. And it is an absolutely beautiful garden now. And Arthur Shackleton has been very involved in that, as has Robert Miller in Altamont Plants. And he's going to give a talk on that process with contributions from Bella Bielenberg, who obviously has been instrumental as well as owner of the gardens. And it'll be a lovely evening. It's our first time in Sandbrook House, so it's a great opportunity for people to see that garden. And it will start with a nice glass of wine, some lovely Carlow farmhouse cheese on water lilies sourdough bread. If anybody
Oh yeah.
isn't familiar with water lilies, it's a beautiful cafe here on Tulla Street in Carlow Town, and they produce their own sourdough bread.
And it's
And
amazing. It's
oh, it's
amazing.
gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah,
It's very hard to stop. The only problem is it's very hard to stop eating the sourdough bread
yeah,
once you start at all.
yeah.
It is so tasty. But that will be the Thursday evening, and we're looking forward to having our first outing in Sandbrook House. And it really is a garden that has matured and developed over the past number of years, and it'll be a great opportunity for people to see a new garden in Carlow.
Yeah, it's a nice addition actually, those 2 evening talks, because as I was saying at the start, if somebody is making this their kind of weekend away, or this their domestic holiday, then to have something in the evening times is a nice addition.
Yes,
And
yes,
I'd imagine that'll prove popular because yeah,
yeah.
it'll fill that spot. People are away for a week and they'll
Yeah,
be
and we'd really like, I suppose, in the coming years to work more on that. And what we've learned, I suppose, is it's very nice, no more than the talks during the day. Obviously, they're in the various garden venues and the nurseries and the garden centres, but also to have the evening talks within the venues themselves, because people love that.
hmm
We have had talks in the past, maybe in indoor properties and traditional, I suppose, tourism establishments, and they haven't been as well received
yeah.
as literally physically being in a garden where they can go and look at the borders and the gardens before the talk starts or after. So we're looking forward to seeing how these 2 evenings go.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And the following morning, again, for people who might be coming down, maybe taking Friday off work, they get to the talk in Sandbrook House on the Thursday, and then they get to another of the highlights of the festival program, which is the full day of activity out in Altamont Plants on the grounds of Altamont Gardens, and it's two UK speakers, Tom Brown and Jack Aldridge. And Tom Brown is obviously very well known from his work in Westdean Gardens. He's the head gardener there. And then Jack Aldridge, I suppose he's one of the real up and coming names in UK gardening. He was in Wisley. He's just recently moved to English Heritage, and he's focusing on the vanishing garden. So a plantsman pick of good garden plants, and he's advocating no more than Daphne for the shrubs. He's advocating for, the real hard-working plants, the reliable ones, the ones that maybe perhaps we have forgotten but are equally beautiful. They stand the test of time, and that is his focus of his talk. And that day is a really beautiful day because in between the two talks, there's a trio of jazz musicians in the plant sales area. It's just a real kind of garden party atmosphere. People flow out into the main gardens to have a wander around the main gardens. They head up to the forge at the crossroads for their lunch, or they stay on site. The Sugar and Spice Cafe have lovely
Yeah.
sandwiches and salad bowls and kind of sweet treats. If somebody wants something more substantial, the forge it's less than a mile away, but it's a very much a garden party atmosphere.
Yeah. Altamount looks brilliant at the minute, but Altamount Plant
Yes,
Sales, which obviously Robert runs, is fantastic. You have all the usual suspects, but a lot of unusual plants, really high quality, large snowdrop collection, large rose collection. So yeah, you get a lot of interest there, and obviously the gardens themselves when you're out and about in them are fantastic, and they're looking unbelievable at the moment. The
yes, I
gardens in
was out
Altamount.
there only, oh God, I think the week before last, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah, amazing at the
beautiful.
minute. Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and the thing to remember about when you're at the day for Altamont Plants, or indeed at the day in Altamont Gardens, there are three tour guides there, three brilliant tour guides, and they also offer guided tours of the actual gardens themselves. So, if you want to just go to the reception point, they're very flexible about the times. So if you have time between your lunch break, there'll be a free guided tour for you there as well.
Brilliant.
Okay, so once we're finished in Altamont Plants, literally 2 miles over the road that evening is the village of Ballon, and we've Aine and Nilauna doing a biodiversity walk and talk through the village of Ballon. And Ballon is really one of the forefronts in terms of sustainable and biodiversity gardening. They've done a huge amount of work in this area. So
Hmm.
we're starting at the new car park, which is opposite the community centre in Ballon. And we're going through lots of different areas, be it the St. Peter and Paul's walkway, the actual graveyard attached to the church. Um, they also have 12 um, trees, examples of native Irish species. So that's going to be an interesting evening as well, in terms of, just explaining how biodiversity can be brought into gardening spaces very easily. And Aine Launa is a really nice speaker. I find her very entertaining.
Yeah,
So
brilliant. Yeah,
it will be both practical, but also enjoyable as well.
yeah, yeah. That's a brilliant day. A full day, all very close together, so you've no real driving in between, and and Ballon is a brilliant village. There's all along in front of the school. They did a lot of work over the last few years. A lot of um, planting done for pollinators, bug hotels. functional ones, not just decorative ones. So it's it's a really, yeah, as you said, a brilliant little village
Mm.
from that perspective.
Yeah. And then on the Saturday morning, we head back again to Delta for the final of our two talks. And probably a lot of your listeners will identify with this talk as in, you've promised yourself that you're buying no more plants, and that is it. And what do you do when you head out again and basically one plant is never enough? Every new discovery, you create the space somewhere within your border, within your garden for the next plant. So she's focusing on a plantaholic's paradise. And
Brilliant.
it's Helen's View. She's from the Picton Garden and Old Court Nursery in the UK. I think it's third generation. It's a third generation business. And Helen herself, she would confess to being a plantaholic. So it's her personal journey, collecting, growing, celebrating plants, what she really loves, what she can't be without, the plants that have captured her imagination over the years, from the ones that maybe, again, we tend to forget about, but they're really reliable performers, to just these rare treasures, these rare finds that you cannot deny yourself, even though you've promised to deny yourself. So I think that will be a great talk. And that afternoon, again, it's the last of our visits to Huntington, and it's Bunny Guinness. And we had Bunny 2 years ago or 3 years ago in Boris House, and she gave an absolutely fabulous talk. Obviously, she's well known for her work with King Charles, but this time she's focusing on designing with plants. She's a very imaginative planting style. She's hugely, hugely knowledgeable. So she's really drawing on all of her experience throughout the work she's done in Britain and in Ireland. And she's going to be sharing her insights into how to combine plants for colour, for texture, for seasonal interest, to create gardens that look natural. They're full of character. They look balanced. So I think that'll be another very popular talk within the programme this year.
Yeah, brilliant. That's another brilliant day.
Yeah,
And
and
again,
one thing I forgot to mention, just with Huntington and again with Delta, obviously both of them have lovely cafes. So, it's just a lovely place to head before or after.
yeah,
Huntington has the added advantage that you can avail of a guided tour of the house. So on the website, you can actually book in your guided tour again before or after your talk. So you kind of make a whole day or afternoon of it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
some brilliant walks and that down around Huntington as well. I worked in Huntington a long, long time ago, and there's a fantastic U Walk, which has, I think, the oldest U Walk in the country, and
Yes.
that is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Then you have walks down to the river there. So yeah, it's an amazing place, just to
Yes. And they call it the wilderness. You head in, I suppose at the start of it is the U Walk, but then you go further and further down and you come to the old house that generated ESB for the estate. I think I call it ESB, but obviously electrics,
electrics. Yeah,
as far back as I think it was 1891. But it's just a place that every corner you go around, there's something new,
yeah,
there's something different to experience. And Alex and the family have done just amazing work there over a relatively short period of time. So it's a lovely place to head.
yeah, for sure.
Um, then the last day, and it's amazing when we talk about it now, John, and it seems so long, but it's amazing how quickly the festival goes. And then
Yeah.
on the last day, you're kind of very sad that it's all over again for another year. You think it's a program that will go on forever, but it actually goes by very, very quickly. So the last day, we have Mary Keenan, another wonderful gardener, and she's in the Barrow Experience Gardens out in Bagnallstown. And I don't know if you've been there, but they are just beautiful gardens. And again, you know, I know all of our gardens have very special atmospheres, but here again, there's just a wonderful, warm, and welcoming atmosphere. And to me, it's a very special place. It operates on the same principles as the Delta Sensory Gardens. So the gardens themselves are a space for those the centre is a space for those with disabilities, and then they've developed their gardens both for their own participants, but also for the general public.
Yeah.
And Mary Keenan is doing a walk and talk around those gardens. And I've heard Mary Keenan on many occasions, and sure, she's a wonderful gardener.
Yeah,
So
super.
there'll be lots of helpful tips and nuggets of information that morning. But it's just a lovely opportunity to get to see those gardens, because they're not open all the time. So it's a good opportunity for people to get
Yeah.
in and see around them.
No, it's a
And
garden
then,
I haven't been in before, but Mary is a fantastic speaker. Brilliant gardener, has a great garden herself. So
yeah,
yeah, that'll be definitely great. I know, but I haven't. I've heard about those gardens. You've told me about them before, but others as well. And
yeah.
yeah, they're supposed to be very
They're
good.
literally they're called the Barrow Experience Gardens. They have 10 different gardens within it. Um, a monastic garden, a herb garden, but they're on the banks of the River Barrow.
Hmm.
So in Bagnallstown. So you can park at the gardens themselves or outside on the street. And when it's all over, there's lovely little coffee shops in Bagnallstown, and you can take a wander down along the river.
Yeah,
Whether you take a formal walk up as far as Loughlin Bridge or go southwards in the direction of Gore's Bridge, but it's just a very special space as well.
yeah.
And
Beautiful.
that afternoon, then we finish off the garden festival, where we head to Rathwood, and that's a family day of entertainment. It will be suitable for both adults and for kids.
Hmm.
So we're looking forward to that also. And one thing I forgot to mention as well, John, if you don't mind me mentioning,
No problem.
is we're trying to expand the program this year, and we have two workshops. Again, it's a different aspect to the garden festival. So on the Thursday and on the Saturday, we have a botanical impression creative workshop. It's in Kilgraney House and Herb Gardens.
Okay.
And they're starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. They finish at 1. They've a very limited attendance, because obviously it's very hands-on.
Hands-on. Yeah.
So it's limited to 10 people each.
Yeah.
So basically what you'll be doing is you'll gather all the botanical materials out in the herb gardens in Kilgraney, and then you work with Martin, who's one of the owners, and he's a brilliant artist and designer himself. So you work on how plants, become sources of color and pattern and image. And you experiment really with inks, creating plant prints, making lovely images with leaves and flowers and sunlight. And you walk away from the workshop itself with an actual botanical print of your own.
Brilliant.
So that's another different but complementary event that's happening this year as part of the Garden Festival. And it's on the 30th of July, which is the Thursday morning between 10 and 1. And it's back on Saturday, the 1st of August, again from 10 until 1.
Brilliant. And tickets for those two workshops are on the same website.
It's on the same website, so everything is on the Carlow Garden. Well, not the Carlow Garden Trail, but it's www.carlowgardentrail.com.
Yeah, brilliant. And that's where you get all
Can
your
I
tickets.
just say, John, we are aware, not everybody is as familiar with negotiating websites and trying to book tickets online.
Yeah.
So we do say that if anybody is having difficulties, they just ring the tourist office in Carlow. It's 9059 91 And Mary on the phone there is very helpful and willing to guide people. She'll book the tickets for attendees. So it becomes, let's say, a less painful process. The website is very easy to follow, but
Yeah,
we're very
yeah.
aware that not everybody is as au fait with IT as others. So it just makes it that little bit less stressful, I
Yeah, and I
suppose,
think that's
what
good
we're
as well
trying to say.
because you're right because I see that myself. There is people that just they either don't like or they're not familiar with navigating the website and to be able to phone someone and say, "Listen, I want to go to this talk." Uh, I
Can
think
you
that
help me?
yeah, I think that's very good and in a world where we are moving more and more towards digital transactions, it's a lovely touch to add that and to give that
Yeah.
availability to people in that way. So. Um,
And the good thing is the tourist office is open Monday to Saturday, and then it's open again on Sunday between 2 and 4. So I suppose I understand that people don't always get, if they're minding grandkids or whatever, they're working, they don't always get to do these things during the week. So if people, only get to reach on it on a Saturday morning, the office is open as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So I'll put the phone number and I'll put the link to the website in the show notes anyway, so anyone can click through that. Again, it's amazing, an amazing lineup of speakers again this year. So Saturday the 25th of July to Sunday the 2nd of August, action-packed, various types of speakers, so many different topics. So many, yeah, there's not many there that you wouldn't want to go to. I'll put it to you that way. So, yeah,
Yeah.
well done again, Eileen, on putting the whole lot together. And thank you very, very much for coming on Master My Garden podcast.
Thank you, John.
So that's been this week's episode. Huge thanks to Eileen for coming on. Again, amazing speakers. You'll find the full lineup, the full program. Obviously we've ran through it there, but you'll find the whole lot on carlowgardentrail.com. And yeah, you'll be able to see day by day who's speaking, what times they're speaking at, and you can purchase tickets there. Or if you don't want to work through a website, you can phone that number. Again, both of those are in the show notes. So that's been this week's episode. Thanks for listening, and until the next time, happy gardening.